Good morning, Mr. Bass.
Yeah, good morning.
I
Okay,
think you
so
want to make a co-host to be
yeah,
promotions. So it won't distract your
please
classes.
help me share the link with your colleagues. So the YouTube link will be sent as well. Hello, who is that?
So I think you make a co-host so they can mute. Or you make one.
Please kindly mute yourselves because I'm muting, but I don't know why I can see it.
The class meeting.
Please mute yourselves. I'm muting. I don't know why it's not
Once.
muting everyone. Please.
Inside.
Hello, see, if you are not muted, all right, I will just remove you from this class. And you know, once I remove you, that means you can't join this class again because I will not admit you again. So if you fail to mute yourself, I will just remove you from this class. That means you will go and join the class on YouTube. That's the implication. Please, I do not want you guys to start typing your name, department, and matric number on the chat box. I do not want that. So don't type your name, matric number, and all on the chat box. Just leave the chat box empty. Don't send any message to it. Don't send your details to the chat box. Don't send any message to the chat box. If you do that, I will remove you from this class. So I'll give others few minutes to join. So let me share the YouTube link with us. All right, so that's the YouTube link. Do not type anything via the chat box. All right, so let anyone who comes, allow anyone that comes to be able to see the YouTube link so that they can join us via YouTube as well. Okay, so last week we looked at introduction to programming, right? So all videos should be turned off except mine. Arrow 230805-041. Kindly turn off your video. All you just need to do is to listen to my lecture and you should be able to see my screen as well. All right. So arrow 230805-041. I guess that's your matric number. Kindly turn off the video. Nobody should send any message to the chat box, all right? I don't want to see your details, your name, your matric number, and all that. Keep it to yourself, please. So class reps and everyone, kindly help me broadcast the YouTube link as well. I won't use my, that's not my YouTube page. So I'm using a colleague's system because of some technical issue. So let me see if people are watching on YouTube as well. Okay, I think we have about 9 people watching on YouTube. So last week we looked at introduction to programming, and we're able to see some important aspects of programming, right? So we looked at what a program is, like definition of programming, SDLC. Rukoya, please turn off your video. We looked at what the SDLC means, right? And all of this. So today, I said we'll be going a bit deeper into programming itself, and we'll be considering a programming language, which is what? Visual Basic, all right? Visual Basic 6.0. See, once you disturb my class, either by not muting yourself or your video is turned on, what I will just do is to kindly remove you. And once I remove you, I will not readmit you into this class. iPhone, I can see a name called iPhone, a user called iPhone. Kindly turn off your video now. I will not give that warning again. All videos except mine should be turned off. All right. So I'll be sharing the slide now. I want to believe that my screen is visible to everyone. I want to believe that my screen is visible to everyone. So can we see my screen? Of course, we know we don't have to answer yes or no. All we just need to do is to respond via the chat box. Let me see your response. Okay, yes. All right, thank you. So FS, we have Visual Basic as a programming language, Visual Basic 6.0. So this is what you expected to know in this class. We introduced programming last week, so this class will help you to understand better the concept of programming. So the importance of programming worldwide, understand the benefits of using VB 6.0 for Windows as an application tool, all of this. So we've looked at this last week. We know what a program is. No. Okay. So we know who a programmer is, right? A programmer is someone that writes codes, all right? So we've looked at a program, know what a program is. So anyone that writes a program is what? Is a programmer. I talked about IPO last week, that when you want to solve a problem, you must be able to define your inputs, understand what problem you're trying to solve, how your input will translate to your output. And we know what helps us to translate our input to output is what? Processing. As the code that you write to process or to work on your inputs. That's what we're able to get for these outputs. So we've seen some of these already. I have a question here. Is programming a special kind of people? I know you might be thinking, after all, I'm not in computer science, so I don't really need programming. But I'm telling you that programming is for everyone. It is applicable in every field, either you are in medicine, you are in nursing, or regardless of biz admin anywhere. And I have many people from all these fields who are into programming today. So Visual Basic developed in 1960, language developed in 1960 at Dartmouth College. So what does that basic actually stand for? As beginners all-purpose symbolic instruction code. So designed. So who is that person disturbing my class? I'm going to remove you now. Let me just see that person. It's unmuted.
I'm in the front though.
Okay. You don't disturb my class. So Visual Basic was introduced in 1991, right? So it's a tool. Visual Basic as a programming language just looks is a programming language that allows you to develop GUI applications or GUI applications. So the applications have a familiar appearance to the user. Visual Basic has two major components, all right? In VB, we have two major components, which are controls and commands. A control is a graphical object, such as a text box, a label, or a button. We understand some of this as we proceed. I believe we've seen the ATM before, and we know what the ATM looks like. One way or the other, you must have used the ATM before. See, when you visit the ATM, there's an interface that appears to you. You see something like input your PIN, right? Then you slot in your card. You see a space that whatever password or PIN that you enter from the keypad, you see it on the screen. Then you see enter or submit or login or something, right? So these are all controls. So three most important controls that every one of us must be familiar with are, you have many other controls, but at least you must be familiar with these three basic controls: text box, label, and button. So I will let us know what each of these is. And the other one, which is command, is just an instruction that, when issued by the user, causes Visual Basic to perform an action. For example, once you visit the ATM, maybe you have supplied your PIN, and you see when you press enter, that enter is a button, because once you press enter, an action is what is performed, right? Maybe you get to the next interface where you see withdraw, deposit, make a transfer, recharge your airtime, and all of that. Once you click one of these, that's a button, right? Once you click on one, then see that an action is performed. Maybe when you click on withdrawal, it goes to an interface that tells you to enter the amount you want to withdraw, blah, 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 and all you get. So that is what your command. It causes an action to be what? To be performed. Why the control is just a graphical object. The way those things have been placed. You placed your buttons, your labels, and your what? And your text box. We have option buttons and many others. So VB is event driven. So what do you mean by this? It means that your code remains idle, right, until it is called upon to respond to some what events. Button pressing. Maybe you visit the ATM, you input your PIN without pressing maybe enter. Do you get it? That interface stays, nothing happens. So once you now press the enter, which is like a button, that's when the code is going to be what executed. So that's what we mean by being event driven. So we can see this is an example of an interface or a form. So we can use Visual Basic to design all of this. All right. So you can see here where we have select transaction. This is just an ordinary text. So here we have a label. Press cancel to terminate transaction. This is a label. So we can see all of this because all of these are buttons, right? When you click on statement or change pin or transfer, an action is what performed. So these are all buttons. This is another interface. You can see here we have transfer forms. We have transfer forms. Recording the video. So here we have what? Transfer funds. This is a label, right? Destination bank. This is a label. Here we have a select button. So this is everything here is what a label. So I will show us what a text box is. Now look at this. You can see beneficiary name. This is a label, right? For static text. We cannot change that. But where we have beneficiary name, you see this is a text box. I've been talking about a text box. This is a text box here. Why? Because it's going to receive some text from me. Beneficiary name, I can input that. Okay, maybe Olajide Taiwo, right? So I can enter a text there. So this is a text box. Amount, static text. This is what a label. Amount here is what is a text box because it can actually get an input from me. So I can type something there. So that is a text box. And here you can see continue. Here we have continue, which is a button because when I press continue, an action is going to be performed. Maybe it will take me to the next interface or it will enable me to make a transfer. All right. So nothing happens until an event is detected. So once an event is detected, the code corresponding to that event is executed. That's what makes Visual Basic to be event-driven. Here we have the history. You can see the history of Visual Basic, starting from when we had VB 3.0, 4.0, 5.0, and the current version is 6.0, which is Visual Basic 6.0. Though Microsoft has stopped developing or supporting VB 6.0, but the ID is still very much available for us to run programs, to help us understand programming, so to teach programming as well. So this is what VB interface looks like. So before this, so in Visual Basic, every interface is just like a form, all right? So you can have several forms. For example, if you visit the ATM, that login interface is like a form, right? And you proceed to the next interface. Maybe once you've supplied your PIN, you go to another interface, right? That interface that allows you to what? To choose a transaction or to perform a transaction. You have to select a transaction you want to perform. Maybe after you have supplied your PIN, and the next interface allows you to what? To perform a transaction, which can be withdraw, transfer, and so that interface can also be seen like a form, all right? So everything forms the ATM application. So you can see you have different interfaces, right? An interface, which is also a form, appears to you based on what you are trying to do. If you click on withdrawal, you will not see the interface for what? For making a transfer, right? If you click on deposit, you will not see the interface for making a withdrawal. So any interface that appears to you will depend on which transaction you are trying to what? To perform. So that's the way. So you can see the whole of the ATM app as a project with several forms, all right? So each form has its own set of what controls. How are you placing your labels? How are you placing your text boxes? How are you placing your what? Your command buttons? Are you placing your what? Your select button? Do you get it? Are you placing your option button and all of this? So these are all controls. So VB allows us or gives us access to these controls, and we can use these controls in designing our what? Our form or interface. So this tells us, I've been mentioning controls. So this helps us to what? To understand each of these better. So you have the form, that's the windows that you create for user interface controls. These are graphical objects that you can place on your form. All right. So every control has some properties. A label, for example, has some properties, right? So you can set the width of the label, the height of the label. Do you get it? You can set the caption, that's the text that will appear for that label. So each of these controls has its own set of what? Properties, like caption, size, color, position, and content. So you have methods. So we have some inbuilt, built-in methods that helps us to what? To perform some action. So now when it comes to what? VB, we have three major steps that are involved in building a what? A VB application. I repeat, we have three major steps which we are going to see. Of course, we are going to write codes. We'll see how each of this is done. We have three primary steps that are involved in building a Visual Basic application. Remember, I said your form is just like an interface, right? So on that form, you have to add your controls to what? To the form. So you have to draw the user interface. Then you assign properties to these controls, then you attach your code. The code is your command, right? So once you attach your code to your controls, then it means maybe, for example, you are writing a program to add two numbers and you have designed your interface. Okay, let's say enter first number, that's the label. Then you have a text box to receive that number from the user. You have a second interface sorry, you have a second label, enter second number, and you have a second text box that will receive the input from the user. Then you can just have a button that will say, okay, once you have both numbers, maybe the button name can be add. That means when you click on add, it's going to add what you have in the first text box and what you have in the second text box. So that's a simple form that has the three basic controls, which are what? Labels, text boxes, and what? And buttons, command buttons. It doesn't mean that you don't have other controls, but like I said, these are the three basic controls that we all must be what? Familiar with. So once you assign properties to your what? To your controls, then you attach code to the what? To the controls. So like I said, we'll look at each of these steps. So So the main window, right? So this is what the VB application window looks like, all right? So you can see the window has title bar, all right? You have menu bar, you have toolbar. I have the application here, so let me just show us what it looks like. So like I said, our programming language is VB 6.0, right? So we have a portable version which of the application that which you can download to enable you write your VB codes or programs. So this is what the application looks like. I will send it to your course reps, to the WhatsApp group for your course reps, so they can share it with you. And also, if you can download it on the internet, it's available on the internet. You just say download Visual Basic 6.0 portable version. So this is the portable version that allows me to run any program in Visual Basic. So I just want to show us what the main window looks like. Can we see? So this is what the window looks like, all right? So which is the same thing with what I have in my slide. So you can see we have the menu editor, you can save your project and all of that. So the form window is central to developing VB applications, right? It is where you draw your application. I think I've mentioned that. So in the window, you have what is called toolbox. The toolbox allows you to what? To select any control that you want to use for your what? Application. So let me show us what the toolbox is. So you can see here we have the what? We have the toolbox, all right? So here we have the toolbox. You can see this is a pointer. So if I want to add a pointer to my application, I will select a pointer here. I have a text box. I've been talking about text box, text box, text box. So this is a text box. Here we have a label. Here we have a command button. Here we have an option button. You can see here we have a checkbox. So you have all of these here. So you can select any control that you want and add it to your what? To your form. So before getting to that, before we start writing codes, I still have some other things that I think are important for us to what? To look at before we start writing codes. So we've seen what the toolbox looks like. So we said we have the properties window. Remember I said for every control, right? You can always set the properties for that word control. For example, let's say I have a control, which is, let me have a label. All you just need to do to add the label to the form or to add any control to the form, just click on the control, right? And once you get to the form, you can, you click on it, you left click and drag. So to the size that you want it to be, you can see label 1. So since I've just added a label, by this right hand side, you can see I have properties for label. So I can change anything regarding that regarding that label. I have top, I have the width, I have the what? I have the color, the style, the caption, and everything. So here I have the properties for what? For label. So every control that you add to your what? To your form, either it's a label or a text box or a command button, you can always come to this side, right? This side to what? To set the properties. For example, as I've just added a label, right? You can see it has an automatic caption. That is the text that will appear on that label. So it has an automatic caption. I can change it. So caption is the text that appears in your label. So I can change it. Let me say, I don't want it to be label. Maybe I just say input pin, all right? That's the static text that I want to appear there. Input pin, you can see this has changed to what? Input pin. So if I want to add a text box, like I said, a text box will allow me to what? To supply a value, to enter a value. You can see I've added a text box. A text box, the text box is supposed to be empty because it wants to receive a text from the user. So I can clear that. There's no, I'm not supposed to have any text there. So you can see, because I've added a text or a text box, right? You can see here I have the properties for a what? A text box. When I add, okay, when I click on this, you can see the labels, or sorry, you can see the properties for labels, right? But when I click on text box, you can see here I have the what? I have the properties for text box, all right? So this is a command button, for example. Let's say this is just for the ATM. So you have input pin. Maybe you now have, okay, proceed or something. Maybe after you have supplied your pin, you can see this is a command. I've added a command. By default, for every control that you add to what? To the form, VB assigns it a default text or caption, all right? So you have to change this because command 1, what do I want this to do? This is a command button. I want it to submit, okay, whatever pin that the user has entered, I want it to be submitted, right? So that's the caption there should not be what? Command 1. So it should be something like submit or proceed or continue, right? So I can easily change that. So you can see the command button also has its own set of properties. It has caption. Caption is what describes the text that will appear for that control, all right? So you can see, so this tells me input pin, all right? This allows me to what? To receive the pin. So this is a text box. So I can just say, let me add a label that will say, welcome user. So that is a static text. So what am I supposed to use there? I'm supposed to use what? A label. So welcome user. You can see Gradually, this is looking like the home page for an ATM what application. So you can see here I have welcome user, because wherever I have a label, that means I need a static text. Where I have a text box, that means maybe where I want to capture an input from the user. Do you get it? Because the input can be anything. But for everyone that is trying to use this application, I want it to be welcome user. I want the text to be what? Welcome user. So that text there is static. That's why I'm using a label. Input pin, we have different pins. Your pin is different from mine, right? So it should be able to receive any pin that you enter. That's why that is empty, so that it can receive any pin you are entering. Input pin, the text here is what? Static. Everybody that comes to see input pin, it can't be changed. It is a static text. That's why that is a label. And continue, command button causes an action to be performed. Once you input the pin, what happens? Okay, you have to attach a code to that. That continues a command button. You have to attach a code to that. Okay, once the pin has been supplied, this is what I want you to do. If the pin is correct, that's why I see that in your, when you get to the ATM, if the pin is correct, it allows you to proceed to the next interface, which is like a form. It's a form on its own. And if the pin is wrong, right, it tells you that the pin is wrong, so it can eject your card. So there, it's what about decision making, which I'm sure we'll get there as well. So decision making. So you can see that submit, it's either it accepts the pin from you if it is correct, or it rejects. Do you get it? It rejects the pin and tells you that, oh, you have entered a wrong pin, and it will not proceed to the next interface. So you see how we do all of this. So this is just to let us see what the VB environment looks like, help us understand what a control is, right? And help us understand what we mean by label, text box, and what, and command buttons. Of course, like I said, we have more than that. So these are all controls that you can play with as much as what you like. So let's go back to the slide. So we can see, we've seen what the properties Windows looks like. So before we start writing code, all right, so there are some things that we must understand when it comes to Visual Basic. So we have fundamental features of Visual Basic. So we need to understand what keywords are. We need to understand what constants and variables are. We need to understand what we call data types. So basically what I've been doing since is just to introduce us to the what? To the window of the VB application. Let us understand what a label is, a control is, and what we mean by what commands, all right? So we have to understand what we mean by keywords, constants and variables, data types, data declarations, operators, assignments, input statements, output statements, and what, and program comments. So let's start with this. What is a keyword, right? So a keyword is a word, right, or phrase that is exclusively reserved or kept for special use by a programming language. Yes, I'm saying a programming language because even if you are familiar with other programming languages, right, they all have keywords. And the definition for keywords is what is the same. These words are reserved. They are also known as what? Reserved words. A keyword is also known as what? A reserved word. Let me just say keywords. They are also known as what? Reserved words. What we mean by reserved words is that these words, keywords or reserved words, cannot be used anyhow in the what? In a programming language. Because when the programming language sees those words, something comes to its mind that, oh, when I see this, this is how it is being used, because they have a specific way that they've been designed to be used in that given language. So examples of some of these words are what? In Visual Basic, we have dim, D-I-M. We have dim, which is D-I-M. So it is a keyword in Visual Basic, all right? We have sub in Visual Basic, S-U-B. We have while, we have for, we have when, we have single, we have double, long. Of course, this is not everything. We have else, all right? We have next, we have many words that are what? Keywords. These words cannot be used as variable names. So that will lead me to what? What we mean by variable names. What do we mean by a variable name? Let me discuss variables first. So a variable is a location or area in what? Computer's memory where data is what? Stored. For example, remember where, let me come back to this. Let me come back to this. Remember, I will enter a value here, which is what? Pin. That pin is supposed to be what? An integer. So whatever pin that the user enters, I might need to store it so that I can compare it with the pin that is attached to that account, right? So that means I need to store that value, whatever pin that the user enters here. I need to store it in a what? In a variable. That is, maybe I can call it user's pin or user pin, because it will be a value. So if I store that value in user pin, that makes user pin a variable, right? So I can say, okay, I want to store my name. For example, maybe I'll create a variable called name to store my name. I can create a variable called surname to store what? To store what? My surname. For example, let me just so let me say I have surname equal to what? Abbas. Now, this surname is a variable, all right? Why? It is storing a value which is what? Abbas. That surname is a variable. It is storing what? Abbas. Okay, so let me say I have age equal to what? 56. Age is a variable because remember I said a variable holds or stores a value. So in this case, the first one, surname is a variable and it has a value, which is what? Abbas. Age equals to 56. Age is a variable and it's storing a value, which is what? 56. So that is what we mean by what? A variable. Now, remember that I mentioned keywords. Yes, surname is a variable. Where I'm saying mine is surname, another person can say, I just want to use S. Maybe someone that is lazy can just say S equals to Abbas. That S is also a what? A variable name. It can be anything in as much as you know that, oh, this is the name that I'm using to store this value. All right. Okay. So dim is a keyword in Python, in Visual Basic. So I cannot use dim as what? As a variable name. Maybe I'm not saying, yes, let me store a value called Abbas and I want to use dim. No. Visual Basic is going to give me an error. Why? Because dim is what? Dim is a keyword in Visual Basic. And you cannot use a keyword as a what? As a variable name. Surname equals to Abbas. Surname is not a keyword in Visual Basic, so that is acceptable. Age equals to 56. Age is not a keyword, right, in Visual Basic, so age is also acceptable. S. S equals to Abbas. S is not a variable name. That makes S acceptable as what? As a S is not a keyword. That makes S acceptable as what? As a variable name. Dim. Dim is a keyword. Therefore, it cannot be used as a what? As a variable name. While is one of the keywords in Visual Basic. So while cannot be used as what? As a variable name. This will give me an error. So the last two assignments will give me an error. Why? Because dim is a variable name, so you cannot use it to store a value. While is a variable name, you cannot use it to store a value because they have special usage in Visual Basic. All right. So that's what that is just saying. So I believe now we know what a variable is. So we have some rules in naming variables. Any variable that you want to create, the first character must be a letter, and it can include letters and numbers and underscore only. Your variable name cannot have space. Even if you are joining two words together, you know that, yes, this is what I'm joining two words here. You still have to join those words. You may decide that you want to join those words together. Fine. There should be no space. Your variable name cannot have a space. You can decide that you want to join them together. Look at this, for example. We have tax and rate, right? We are joining tax and rate. You can see tax. Maybe you make the T capital letter and you say R, rate capital letter. So this helps you to understand that, oh, these are two different words, but it's still functioning as a single variable. Or you say, okay, let me make use of an underscore, tax underscore rate. Rather than having tax, then space and rate, no. You cannot have a space in what? In a variable name. Like I said, you cannot use a reserved word as a variable name, because a reserved word is a keyword or a keyword in what? In Visual Basic. So one other thing that I said we must know is a constant. For example, name can be a variable because you can enter your name, another person can enter his or her name, I can enter my name, so it's a variable. We also have what is called constant. So a constant is a numeric or string value that will not change, its value will not change in a program. For example, pi. We all know that pi has a constant value, which is 3.142, right? So I can declare pi as a constant, meaning that wherever I want to use pi in my program, pi should always maintain that value of 3.142, meaning that you won't be able to change the value of pi because pi has a constant value. So I can declare that as a what? As a constant value. So it can be numeric or string. And a numeric constant is a number, so it can be an integer or what? Or real. By real, that is can have decimal points. All right. So this is how you define a constant in Visual Basic. Visual Basic, you have const, which is a keyword. That means you can use const as what? As a variable name. Const. Pi, that pi is a variable name. That is, pi is, wherever I use pi, it will always have the value of 3.14159. So now we know what a keyword is, we know what a variable is, and I said it's also important for us to know what data type is. What is a data type? Now let's see. So data type is for every kind of data that you have, right? It must belong to a type. For example, I will always use, let me use, pick some examples from your biodata. As a student, you have a name, right? You have a date of birth, right? You have an age, right? And you have a gender, all right? Either male or female. So let me just consider this for examples. Name, age, date of birth, and gender. So for your name, for instance, your name is, can your name can your name be a number? For example, if I ask you your name and you tell me my name is 3456, is that possible? No. Because for your name, there is a data type that I'm expecting, which is what? A string. A string is simply a collection of what? Of characters, right? A string is simply a collection of characters. So when I ask you for your age, you can't tell me your age is what? AB. No. Why? Because for your age, there's something that I'm expecting, which is what? Number. Can you see? That means age has a data type, which is what? Integer. Because integer is positive or negative whole number. But of course, we know that for age, even though we know it's an integer, right? It can still be negative. It's positive integer. Your age can be 1, can be 2, can be 3, can be 4, can be 5. Do you get it? So it has to be a what? A whole number, right? So you can see age has a data type, which is what? Integer. Gender. Your gender is male or female. So there, let me just say male. I can say if I have a default, the male, yes or no. Yes or no is a Boolean, so I can use that as a Boolean. Anything that has two values, yes or no, true or false, is what is Boolean. All right. Also, date of birth. Your date of birth belongs to a part. Yes, date of birth is a kind of data, right? Your date of birth is a kind of data. But what is the type? VB has a type called date. So date of birth is of the type date. Your age is of the type integer, right? Your name is of the type string. And the fourth one, okay, if I ask you for your height, you can say, oh, my height is maybe 5.9 feet. Of course, ignore that feet. So let me just say, we know, okay, let me say height. Well, I expect you to give me your height in feet, all right? 5.9. And that person can be 6.3. And that person can be 5.2. You can see that height also has a data type, which is what? Because it takes decimal points. So that makes it real type, real number. It's a real number. But in VB, we have two data types to take care of real numbers, single or double. So single or double, both of them are for floating point numbers, that is decimal point numbers. So 5.9 is not an integer. So its own data type is what? Either single or double. So that's data type. So data type is the attribute of a variable or field that determines what kind of data it can hold. If your age is integer and I enter AB, AB is not an integer, that will be rejected, right? So if your height is single and you're not saying your height is A, that would be what? Be rejected as well, because height, it's not that, oh, if you have declared it as a what? As a single, which is a decimal point number or a floating point number, that means it has a kind of value that it's expecting what? From you as the user. So that's variable. I've discussed data types, so you can see that integer has a range from minus 2 raised to power 16 to 2 raised to power 16, 2 bytes, all right? Minus 2 raised to power 15 to 2 raised to power 15. We have long. Long is also a data type in VB, just that long is 4 bytes, and we know a byte is what? A byte is 8 bits. So long has a larger range than what? Than integers. Integers and long, they are both for what? Whole numbers, positive or negative, no decimal points, right? But integer has a limit, and the limit is 32,767. When I want to take care of values that are larger than that, VB has long, right? That helps me to take care of values larger than 2 billion, than 2 billion. So that is long. We have single and double. Just the same way we have integer and long. Single is 4 bytes, okay? So it has a range of values that it helps me to what? That it can take care of. Whereas for double, double also has its own range of what? Of value. But just that the range for double, you can see it is 8 bytes. The range for what? Double is larger than the range for single. And we also have string, which is your characters, all right? And the character, 1 byte per character. So either ASCII or ABCDIC. So now using variables. Remember I said name is what? A string. Age is an integer. In Visual Basic, you have variables. You need to create variables to store your values. That surname, which is what? Abbas. Surname is a variable name, and it must be every variable you want to use in Visual Basic must be what? Declared. Let me repeat. Every variable that you want to use in Visual Basic must be what? Declared. And how do you declare a variable? Remember part of the keywords that we saw earlier, right? We saw dim. Dim is a VB keyword, which the VB processor understands that whenever you use it, it means you are trying to what? Declare a variable. And it has its syntax. So dim followed by variable name, what? As data type. What do I mean by this? Surname is a string, right? So it goes dim surname as string. I know that I want to create a variable called surname, right? And the surname will be able to store my surname. So I have to declare it using the VB keyword, which is what? Dim. So I have dim surname, which is a variable name. And that person can say, I don't want to use surname. I'm using S name. It's a variable name. Whatever you use is what you use throughout your program. All right. So dim surname as what? As string. If it is your age, you have to declare it. Age is a variable. And remember, I said every variable that you want to use in your VB must be what declared. So I have dim age as what integer. And if you want, let's say account balance, for instance, account balance has decimal points. If I want to declare my account balance, I will say dim account balance. Remember, I told you there is no space. Dim account balance as what? Single or double. Because my account number can take decimal points, all right? So dim account number as single or double. So that's how you do what? You use a variable in a program. You can use your variable to store input. For example, I said dim surname as string, surname equals to Abbas. Maybe if I have a label which is label one dot caption, that is the text that should appear in that label is what is surname. And remember, I said surname is Abbas. That means Abbas will appear there. So don't worry, we are going to write some programs to help us understand all this better. So this is another example. Dim surname as string. Surname equals to enter your surname. So here we have what is called input box. This is one way you can what? Get your inputs in your program. Then you can also make use of an input box. So a variable can be used to hold data from the user. I've said that. One way of doing this is by using the input box function. VB has an input box function, just as we have message box to display output. So it has an input box function to display a dialog box on the screen. So when you use that input box to display, don't worry, we are going to see all of this, but I just need to take you through VB and its important and some important concept before we start writing code. So the input box is going to display like a dialog box on your screen, so that you can enter whatever input you want to enter in it, and it stores it in a variable. So the input box is just like a pop-up box. It will appear. Enter your surname, you type it. And I said, so whatever it is typed in that input box will be stored in surname. Here, I didn't use that because I said I've declared my surname as string, so I'm passing Abbas directly to my surname. Or here, I want it to receive the value of surname from the user. Here it is static, that surname is Abbas. I can also receive it from the user. So I can make use of an input box to receive it from the user. And I can also make use of a text box to receive it from the user. So we'll see how all this can be done. So to display output, you can assign the variable to a property, or you pass the variable as an argument to the dialog box function, which is message box, MSG box. So just as we have input box to receive input, we have message box, MSG box to display output. And the syntax is as seen here. So you just say label.one. Maybe you have a surname that's been entered and it's a message box surname, so it will display that surname. Once you've chosen a name and reserved name for a variable, then you must give it a value. So reading a value from a file, ask the user to type it or assign a value within the program. We have seen some of this. Surname equals to Abbas. That means you're assigning it within the program. Ask the user, maybe you can use input box or your text box, whatever the user inputs, or you are reading from a file. So to assign, the syntax for assignment statements in VB is just a variable name equals to value. You've seen that, right? This is an assignment that make surname Abbas, make age 56, make S Abbas. Dim, I told you, remember dim is a keyword, right? This is wrong. I can't use this as a variable name, but what this just means is that make dim Abbas, make while Abbas. So this is a variable, and the value it's storing is what? Is Abbas. That's an assignment. So if you want to comment, just make use of the single quotes, then whatever comes after it is a comment, right? So data declaration examples, we've seen this. Interest rate, single. Your name is what? String. Because we know that the name is no number, so it's what? A string. So, and you can have some variables where you don't even declare their type. We call them variants, but I will not advise us to make use of that. All right. So constants, we've seen this. Now we have what is called visual basic operators. I have three kinds of operators that I want us to be familiar with. After these operators, then I think we should write some programs to help us understand this better. So we have three major types of operators, right? We have arithmetic, we have logical, and we have relational. This part is very, very important, right? We have arithmetic, we have logical, and we have what? Relational. So arithmetic operators, the operators that we are familiar with, right? These are operators in Visual Basic that help us to perform the basic arithmetic operations. For example, what do we have in the basic arithmetic operations? You can multiply, right? You can multiply numbers, you can divide, you can add, and subtract one number from another number, right? You can find the power of a number, maybe raised to power, right? So we have like we have 7 of them here. You can see exponentiation operator in VB. We have the exponentiation operator. For example, if I want to find 2 raised to power 3, VB has an operator for what? For that. So this is the exponentiation operator. We have star and division, all right? Star for multiplication, which is your asterisk, the forward slash for division, the backward slash for integer division. So we see difference between the forward slash and the backward slash. Then VB also has mode as an operator, MOD is an operator, right? So how does mode work? Mode just returns the remainder of a division, right? Mode returns the remainder of a division. For example, if I have 9 mod 2, that is, what is the remainder when I divide 9 by 2? The remainder is 1. So what mode will return is, it will do 9 divided by 2, 4 remainder 1. So it's that remainder that mode is going to what? To return. So we'll see how mode works. And we'll see addition and subtraction too, plus and minus. These are what? Symbols that we are familiar with already. You can include parentheses to add precedence to your what? To your expression. So to concatenate 2 strings, concatenation, we also have the ampersand, right? That's the and symbol. We have the ampersand symbol to concatenate. Concatenate means to join. So if I have 2 strings, maybe I've declared surname, right? And I said surname equals to Abbas. Dim surname as string. Surname equals to Abbas, all right? So I have another declaration. Dim first name as Rashid, all right? Dim first name as string. First name equals to Rashid. Surname equals to Abbas. First name equals to Rashid, right? And I want to concatenate them together. See what I'm trying to say. Let me make use of form. So let me say I have this. I'll write code, don't worry. So dim surname as string, all right? And dim first name as what? String. That is also a string, all right? So let me say surname. Let me give it a value. Let me say surname equal to. You see that whenever I'm using a string, I always embed it within a pair of double quotes. So wherever you have a string, the value of your string must be embedded in a pair of double quotes. Whereas for your numbers, you don't need a pair of double quotes. Surname is a string. That's why I'm embedding the value, which is Abbas, in a pair of double quotes. First name is a string. So I have to embed the value in what? In a pair of double quotes as well. So let me say Rashid. All right. So first name equals to Rashid. So the concatenation operator, maybe I now say full name, right? Full name. I will just say surname and first name. You can see. So here I am declaring surname, right? Declaration. I use dim to declare. Sorry, this is dim, not sim. I've declared surname as string. I've declared first name as what? As string. So here I'm giving surname a value, right? Because this just tells me that I need a variable which is surname. I need a variable which is first name. these variables must have values because variables store values. So the value for surname is Abbas. The value for first name is Rashid. So I have a new variable which is full name. So I don't need to type my full name that my full name is Abbas Rashid. For the system can actually get my full name by concatenating my surname and my first name to just check. Oh yeah, I'm concatenating surname and first name. What is surname? Abbas. What is first name? Rashid. So that means the output of full name is going to be what? Abbas Rashid, because it is concatenating them to go and fetch. Where is surname? Does surname have a value? Yes. What is the value? Abbas. Does first name have a value? Yes. What is the value? Rashid. So it's concatenating them, that is, it is joining both Abbas and Rashid. So the output for that is going to be what? Abbas Rashid. So that's the concatenation operator, all right? So to concatenate two strings, use this or this. So we have examples here, right? So remember we said the backward slash is integer division. So once to perform its operation, it will check there must be two values, A divided by B. But remember, this is not forward slash, this is backward slash. So it's going to round up each of them. 6.8 is closer to 7 because it's to perform integer division, 7. 2.7 is closer to 3. So that's 7 backslash 3. This gives me what? 2. Because it's going, even the answer is going to be an integer to truncate the decimal part. 8.3 is closer to 8 than 9. So 8. 2.2 is closer to 2. So I have 4 remainder 0. Like I said, to truncate the decimal point, so the output there is going to be what? 4. 13 mode 5. What is the remainder when 13 is divided by 5? The remainder is 3, right? So 8.2 mod 2.2. So the way mode operates is it's going to convert both operands to what? To integers. 8.2 is 8. 2.2 is 2. So 8 mod 2, that's 8 divided by 2, 4 remainder 0. So it's going to return the remainder of what? Of 0. So that is all about arithmetic operators. Then we have VB, we have relational operators. From the name relational, you can use it to relate or compare two things, two values. Is this greater than this? Is this less than this? Is this greater than or equal to this? Right? Is this less than or equal to this? Is this equal to this? And is this not equal to this? So these are what? These are relational operators. We also call them comparison operators, right? Compare. Is this equal to this? Is this greater than this? Is this less than this? Do you get it? So that's relational operators. So we'll be looking at these 6. And the result of the comparison is always a Boolean value. Remember, I told you a Boolean value is either what, true or false. It's comparing. Is 10 greater than 20? You have a yes or a no. Is your name equals to this? You have a yes or what, or a no. So here we have examples. A greater than B. Given that A is, okay, we have Boolean expression. If A is 3 and B is 4, so A greater than B, 3 greater than 4, that is false, all right? A equals to B, 3 not equal to 4, so false. If A equals to X and B equals to X, they have the same value. A greater than B, false, because X is not greater than X, all right? So, and for this class, I think we have other kinds of what? Logical operators, but we just consider these 3, not and or. So these are the 3 logical operators that we're considering, not and or, all right? So not, we have not of true is false. That is, if it is not true, that means it is false. The not of false is what is true. We have and, if this and this, right? If matric number equals to what, this, and department equals to this, then this person is a computer science student. If not, this, and what, and this. So we have and, we also have or, all right? So I think that's the end for lecture 1. And we have some functions in VB. So here we have some functions in VB, some built-in functions in VB that we can use. All right. So here are examples of built-in functions in Visual Basic that we can make use of. Okay. So let me come to this now. Let me come back to this. Just give me 2 to 3 minutes. Well, I want to look at some codes. All right. So just give me 2 to 3 minutes. Let me set up something. Okay. So let's look at simple program. So let's look at a simple program to add numbers. So let me restart from the beginning so we can see how this will be done. Please, can we hear me? Can everyone hear me? Okay, okay, thank you. So here we have the application, which will be sent to your group. So the first thing is you must understand how you want what you want your interface to look like. So let's just say, okay, we want to write a program to add two numbers. Okay, let me see if I can add. Let me see if I can annotate whiteboard. So, for example, you have to come up with a design, maybe num1 or something. Okay, let me just design that. So, I want two labels. So, I have a label. So, let me call this enter num1. So, you can see enter. Why am I using a label here? Because the text is going to be static. Enter number 1 or first number. So, let me say first number. So, for a label, the text that appears in the label, the property that allows me to change that text is what is caption. You can see I have several properties for what label. I still have, if I scroll down, you see all of this, right? But the most important one that I'm interested in is what is the caption, because that's the text that will appear with that label or on that label. So enter first number. So that's my caption for this. So that once you see it, you know what you're supposed to do. Then I need a text box that will receive that number. So you can see. So I have a text box to receive that number. So what am I doing here? I'll clear. I want to clear that because it's supposed to be empty so that it can receive so I can receive that first number from me. All right. So let me see if I can try a bit. So enter first number. Now I need the label. You can see once you hover your mouse on the control, the name will appear. So here we have label, right? So I need a label for second number. So I have a label. So what's the caption supposed to be? Enter what? Enter second number. Okay. Enter second number. So I need a text box in front of it to capture that number from me. Yes or no? Coming to this. Might be at CIT, so you can't. I won't advise you to do it. Taking this. So we have a label and a text box. Now I need a command button because without a command button, no action will be what will be performed. So this command button, you can see it has a default. So we have a default. So we have a command button. Without a command button, right, no action will be performed. So for my command button, I have, let me call it add. We said we want to add two numbers, all right, add, okay. So that's a command button. And what again? So let's have another button to subtract. So another button to subtract. You can add as many buttons as you want. So let me call it subtract, all right. Okay. Remember, enter first number, the number will be entered here. Enter second number, the number will be what entered here. I have not created somewhere where my output will be what displayed, right? I've not created anywhere where the output will be displayed. So let me drag this down and say, I want to create another text box. So I want to create, let me add a text box for my output to be displayed. So let me call this the text box. All right. So text 3, there's nothing is supposed to be there. It's supposed to be empty. So that's text 3. So I have that. I want my output to be displayed there. So let me say, okay, I need a label too, so that it will be obvious that what I have here is my what output. So let me add a label. You can see a label is just for a text, a descriptive text or static text. So label 3, instead of label 3, let me just say result. So whoever is saying that, we know that, oh, what is being displayed there is the what is the result. So that is a label. So how many labels do I have now? Label, you can see the name is label 1. Even though the caption is enter first number, the name is still what? Label 1. This is label 2. You can see the name is label 2. Even though the caption is enter second number, results, you can see label 3. I have 3 labels. If I click on this, text 1, it's a text box, but the name is what? Text 1. If I click on this, you can see it's a text box, and the name given to it is text 2. Here is what? A text box, and the name given to it is what? Text 3. You can see all the properties here, all right? So you can see for this command button, but command 1, all right? That's the name given to the command button. So subtract, command button 2, and the name given to it is command 2. So I will advise that you just leave the name. You can change the name, but always leave them by default. You can change the caption, all right, and the text for your text box, but always leave the name so that it's easier for you to relate with. Now, What we have just done is that I have designed the form. I now need to write code. For me to be able to write code, all those dim, blah, 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 this equals to this, and this, they are all codes, right? So now for me to be able to write my code, you have to double click on the command button, add. What is add supposed to do? Add is supposed to take the value here, right? And the value, okay, so not double clicking. Add is supposed to take the value here. That's any value I enter and the value that is here. It's supposed to add both of them together and put the result here. Let me repeat myself. Enter first number, this is a label. A number will be entered here, right? Enter second number, this is a label. This is a text box to get the number from the user. So a number will be entered here. A number will be entered here as well, right? So whatever number or whatever numbers that are entered in both text boxes, right? When I click on add, add is supposed to display the what? The result of the addition in text box 3, which the name is what? Text 3. So now, for you to write any code, now remember we said we have commands and controls. So what I've just done to this form is to add controls to it. No command yet. I've added controls. What are the controls? 3 labels, 3 text boxes, and 2 command buttons. Now, let me add some command. Add is supposed to, when I click on add, something is supposed to be done. It's supposed to get those 2 values, add them together, and put the result in the what? In the 3rd text box. So now, for that to happen, I have to attach, because this is a command button, I have to attach the code to it. By clicking on it, VB will automatically launch this. By clicking on it, it will automatically launch this. You see private sub command 1 underscore click, and you will see end sub. You will see your cursor blinking between private sub command 1 underscore click and end sub. That is, at that position where your cursor is blinking, that's where you're supposed to write the code. You can see command 1 underscore click means that when that command 1 is clicked, and what is command 1? Add. You can see this is our command 1. Let me go back to it. You can see what's the name? Command 1. Command 1 underscore click means what will happen when that button is clicked. All right. Command 1 is add. So let me, to write the code, double click it. This will appear. Your cursor blinking in between private and end. So you now write the code. Now remember that we have 2 text boxes, right? To capture the first number and the second number. So the variables to hold these 2 values must be declared. Something will be entered in the first text box. Something will be entered in the second text box. So the variables must be created or declared to hold both values. So don't forget how you declare in the VB dim. So let me say num1. That is a variable name to store what I have in what? In my first text box. So what is the data type? Since it's a number, it can be an integer, it can be long, it can be single, and it can be double. But remember, anyone you are using, you must have a reason for using it. If it is integer, you know it is whole number, right? But if you want your number to be decimal, to be able to take decimal points as well, that is either single or double. So I can say, let me say single, all right? Single. Meaning that create a variable called num1, right? And the data type should be what? Single. I need for the second text box, create, or for the second number, let me call it num2. As what? Make it single as well. Data type is single. That is, it will create a variable num1. Data type single, that is, you will to take decimal number. It will create another, I've created another variable called num2 to take a decimal number, num2. Okay. So let me say the result also. Let me create a variable called results that will store the addition, because I told you all your variables must be what? Declared. So I have a variable num1. I have a variable num1 to store whatever I enter here. A variable num2 to store whatever I enter here. A variable result to store their what? Addition, because the addition too must be stored before it is displayed here. So I have that as I have that as what? Result. So let me go back to the code. I'll double click. I'll go back to the code, right? So what is num1? Now I need to assign values to these variables. Num1, I'm not giving it a static value. If I want to give it a static value, I just say num1 equals to, let me say 100. 100. I can say num2 equals to 200. I'll give it a static value. But I don't want that. I want it to be whatever I have in my text box. So num1, I'm not giving it a static value. I'll just say what? Num1 is whatever value that I have in text. Let me see the name. Whatever value that I have here. And what is the name? You can see text1. You can see. So just say text1 dot text. That is whatever text that I have there. That should be my num1. So I'll just say what? Text1 dot what? Text. Meaning that whatever value I have in my text1 should be my what? Should be made my num1. So I'm not making the value static anymore. That is just go to my text1, text box 1, whatever value that is there, get it and pass it towards num1. Go and store that value in num1. So I'll do the same thing for num2. Num2 equals to what? Val text2 dot text. All right. So now I now know where to get num1 from. That is whatever you see in text1, that is my what? That is my num1. Whatever you see in text2, that is my what? Num2. So I now say result. What is result? Result is equal to what? Num1 plus num2. That is, add them together because I know plus is an arithmetic operator. We've seen all the arithmetic operators. Num1 plus num2, right? I will now say this will calculate my result. So whatever result that you calculate, I want that result to be displayed here in my text3. Look at the name, text3. So I want the result to be displayed in text3. So I will now say what? My results. So put my result in text3. So text3 dot text. That is what should appear in text3 is what? Results. So once you do that, then you can save the project. You can save. So wherever you want to save, you can see save project. It will tell you to save the form. So let me call it add. All right. Where am I saving it? You can navigate to wherever you want to save it. Okay. So anywhere you want to save it. And go and select. So let me select. So anywhere you want to save it, let's say desktop or wherever. So I'm calling the name of the form add, right? So what is the name of the project? My addition project. My addition project. So it has been saved, all right? So now to run it, all you just need to do is come to your menu bar, all right? You see this button with name start, then you just click on it, all right? I need to use my system. That's the code for that. So let me see if I can, it's supposed to run, but the VB app, I don't know why it closes for some system. So, and it's the same app that I have that works very fine for me. But the last time I gave some students, it worked for some and it didn't work on some systems. So I've not been able to decode the reason for that. So I don't think it's not running on this system now. So I'm trying to set up mine because it was not coming up initially because this is not my system. So I will run it on my own system. It's coming up already. So the code, I will rerun that code. And also there is something else that I want us to treat, but so I think that one is up. Just give me a minute. It's off. Yeah, sorry, I've joined, but let me make myself a co-host. Okay, are we there? Can everyone hear me? Okay, all right, thank you. So I've switched to mine. So screen. So can we see my screen? Okay, all right, thank you. So let me quickly redesign the form, all right? So a label. So let me, so a label. So let me have enter num1, enter num1, okay. So let's add the second label. I have to rewrite the code. Enter num2, num2, okay. Sorry, I'll be a bit fast now because we've done this before. So a third label, so let me say enter num3, all right. Okay, no, results. So the three text boxes before them, I have this clear. This should be empty because it's supposed to receive an input. I have this also. Which should be empty, all right, cleared. So I have this to what, to display the results, another text box to display the results. So I have this, then this as well. Okay, so this should be cleared as well. And I think, okay, I added 2 command buttons there. Okay, so I named one add, and the other is subtract. So subtract, we have this subtract. All right, so now to write the code, you click on the command button. So let me quickly write the code. Dim A as single, dim B as single. All right, dim, not sim, dim B as single. All right, so and the result is a variable, so let me call it result as single. Okay, so A is whatever I have in text1. A is whatever I have in text1 dot text. Okay, B equal to what, the value in text2 dot text. All right, and my result is the addition, result equal to what, A plus B. Okay, so whatever I have in result, go and put it in text3. So text3 dot text equals to what, results. Okay, so that is it. Now I've taught us how to save it, so let me just run it. Okay, so now this is the code, the same code that we wrote there. You can see here now I'm using different variable names. I'm using A and what? I'm using A and B. Whereas there, I think I used first num and second num. They are variable names, it can be anything. If you are using first num and second num, of course, you know that's what you use here, not A and B. Because I used A and B as my variable names. That's why I'm saying let what I have in text 1 go to A, and what I have in text 2 go to what, B. Add A and B and put it in what, result. So whatever you have in result, go and put it in text3. So, and I know what my text1 is, text2 is, and text3 is. So once I have that, I run. All right, you can see when I tried to run it there, the system shut down. Okay, so the system shut down, right? So now let me add 78 and let's say 90. I'm expecting 168. You can see, so that's 168. Now let's click for subtract. You can see nothing is happening, right? Because we have not attached a code to that. Remember, we said controls and commands. Command is that code that we wrote. So once we click on add, it will now see, did they write any code for add? Yes. It will now check what is the code that they wrote for it. The code says, whatever you have in text 1, make it A. Whatever you have in text 2, make it B. Add A and B and put your result in text 3. That's why it is displaying or working for add. But because we have not done the same thing for what? For subtract, that's why I see that the code. Please, sir, how did you? There's a question. How did you run it? So you, okay, don't worry, I will rerun it. I will rerun it. Okay, so now, before you can rerun, you have to close this. So let me close it now, all right? Someone asked me how did I run it. You will see here, you will see several icons here, right? Close to your menu bar. There is an icon that looks like play. You can see this icon. My mouse is there. The name is start, right? So once you click on it, do you get it? Then this will appear. So you can input values. You see now, see that the cursor is now blinking, waiting to receive a value from you. So you can enter your value and you run it and you get an output. Okay. So this is the button that you click. Now, because we have not written code for subtract, see, add, this is the code, right? Let me come back to the form. Click subtract, you see, you can see command 2 is just blinking, right? There's no code there. Since I know it's the same thing, so I can easily, instead of me to type the code all over again, I know it's the same thing. So let me put this here. But what is it supposed to do? It's supposed to subtract. I have to change the plus to minus, right? I have to change that plus to minus. It's the same thing. So the only thing is just that this one will not be plus, it will be minus. So I have a code there. Now that there is code there, let me run it and see. So let me say 78, 90. I should get minus 12 if I click on subtract. You can see minus 12. But if I click on add, 168. If I click on subtract, minus 12. Do you get it? So that is that. So let me have on the form, let me say I want to add a button that maybe once I get an output, I can clear. So let me add a button called clear. You will see what clear is supposed to do. So what this clear, what I want to use it for is it should clear all the values in the 3 text boxes so I can enter a fresh set of value or a fresh set of values. So clear, I'm calling it clear. What do I want it to do? I want it to make each of the text boxes empty. I want it to make text 1 empty. Text 1 dot text should be nothing. I want it to be nothing. I want it to clear what I have in text 2 as well. So I'll quickly write the one for simple interest, so to help us understand better. So the other part that we need to cover is we have one which is I want us to look at loops and how you make decisions in VB. But I'm not sure we can cover that in this class because it's almost 10, right? So now the third command button that I added, you can see text1.text is equal to nothing. Text2.text is equal to nothing. Text3.text is equal to nothing, meaning that once I click on that, it will clear everything that I have in each of them. So let's see how that works. So let me say I have 675 and I have 321. If I add them, I should have 996, right? 996, yes. So clear, see clear. Can you see? It cleared everything. Why? Because I said text1.text should be nothing. Text2.text should be nothing. Text3.text should be what? Nothing. So it has cleared everything I have in each of the text boxes. So now I can now enter a new set of values. I can enter Q as a number because it won't take it. Okay, let's even enter it and let's see what will happen. Because we have said single, so we are only supposed to enter numbers. It's ignored it. It's not supposed to accept it from us. It just ignored it. Really? Never tried that. So let me try something. Let me just do this. It's supposed to give us an error. It ignored it. It's not supposed to take it. Some languages will give you an error. They will not even take it at all. So I think it's just ignoring the string values as 0. Well, maybe that's the way VB is designed. But Python that I use, Python will never accept it. Python will give you an error. I know Java will give you an error if you run that as well. So that's that. So let's quickly write the one for simple interest, right? Simple interest. What is the formula for simple interest? Principal times rate times time over 100, right? That means we need 3 inputs, right? So what are the inputs? Principal, rate, and time. And there will be an output, which is what? Simple interest. There will also be an output, which is simple interest. So now let us redesign the form. Normally, I'm supposed to delete this and start creating all over again, but since I designed the form, I know what to do. So the caption of this will no longer be enter number 1. We are looking at simple interest, principal. So let's call it principal, all right? This will be our rate. So you can say enter rate or enter principal, all right? And this is time. Time is usually in years, except stated otherwise, so time. So this will receive principal from me. This will receive rate from me, right? And this will receive time from me. Okay, so I need where my output to be displayed. So let me call it simple interest, all right? Simple interest. That is a label, all right? So I need where also it's not a must for you to display your output in a text box. You can also display your output in a label. So instead of using a text box to display my output, okay, maybe I will try that. I will try both. So let me use a text box, then I will change it to a label. I will see what happens, all right? So you can see the name is text4. So I don't want it should be empty because that's where my output is supposed to be displayed. So let me put this here. Of course, our button, the caption should no longer be add because add is not suitable for what we want to do. So let's say, what is the suitable caption? So let's say compute. Compute, yes, because you want to compute simple interest. So let's say compute. You can still leave this as clear, all right? So clear will clear all the values that you have there so that I can enter a fresh set. Huh? Yes, from the caption.
This thing.
Yes. Don't worry, after your class. So we have that. So we don't need subtract. I don't think we need subtract. So what name? Compute clear. What name can we give that? Compute clear. Compute clear. Maybe we should just delete it. Oh, okay, no, let me delete this. So let me give this clear. This subtract, let me make it clear. Okay. So your dad left the office because of us, because of my lecture. So we have compute and clear. Now that we have 4 labels, 4 text boxes, and we have 2 command buttons. So one thing, we have to write the code. But remember, our code is going to be different. So whatever I have here, I have to delete it, right? So let me go back to it. We need to write fresh set of code because the code here is for addition and subtraction. So let me come to compute. You can see. So compute, what do you want compute to do? You should take the value for principal rate and time, right? You should take the values for principal rate and time, multiply them together, divide by 100, and compute simple interest. So what are the first thing, remember I told you, is to declare your variables. What are our variables? Principal rate, time, and simple interest, because simple interest is what we want to do. So input and output, we will declare them. Dim, I can call it P, you can call it principal, you can call it anything. Just know whatever you use, it's a variable name. Whatever you use is what you use when you are multiplying. So dim P as single, our principal can be single, right? Dim rate as rate can be single, all right? And we have time. So let's say dim time as time can be single too. Don't worry, it's not around. So dim principal rate and time are single. Then the next thing is my simple interest. So let me call it SI. You can call it simple interest, but don't forget that you can't have a space in a variable name. So dim SI as what? As single. Now I have declared all my variables. Now the next thing is assign values to principal rate and time. But I'm not giving them static values because I want the values to be captured from the text box. So the same thing that we did in the first example. P is equal to what? The value that I have in text1 dot text. All right, you have to be sure. Let me see. Is it text1? Yeah. See the name text1. Okay. Here is text2. I have to be sure. Rate is in text2. Time is in text3. So I don't mix them up. Time is in text3. Okay. And my result is in text4. All right. So let me go back to the code. I'll double click on this. Principal is in val1. Is in text1. So rate is in text2. Text2 dot text. We have time in what? Time is in text3 dot text. All right. Of course, text4 we can't use it now because simple interest to be calculated and placed or put in text4. So you can't say text4 is equal to value because we will not enter a value there yet. So next thing is, since I know where my inputs will be gotten from. What do I do next? I need to multiply principal rate and time and divide by 100. So SI, which is a variable, the value that will be stored there is what? P times R times T, that is multiply my principal and rate and time. If you have used principal, you have to use principal times rate times time, but me, I'm using PRT. That's why I have PR and T. So once you have done that, divide it by what? 100. That's how simple interest is calculated. So this line will calculate simple interest. And once simple interest is calculated, whatever value that you have calculated for simple interest, kindly put it in text4, the same way we did for the previous one. Text4 dot text is equal to what? SI. Text4 dot text is equal to what? SI. So that is it. In as much as I'm sure that my code does not have any error, then I can run. So let me run it. So let's say we have a principal, let's say 68,000, all right. Rate, maybe at the rate of 5%, all right. For how many years? Let's say 6 years. What's 68,000 times 5? That's 340,000. 340,000 times 6. I think that's 2.04 million. That's 2,000,000 and 40,000 or so. So divided by 100, that's 20,400. So your simple interest should be 20,400. Yeah. Can you see that? So our simple interest is what? 20,400. So clear, I don't think we've written a code for that. Yes, so that's why clear is not working. So let's go back to the form. Yes, who is that? Gwen. Dr. Ogude is not, is around, but he stepped out. I think because of my class, so you can check back. Do you have him now? 10. Let me call him. Please help me call your dad. Yeah, good morning. So for command 2, which is clear. So what should it clear? It should clear everything that we have in all the text boxes, right? So that fresh values can be entered. So the same thing we did, text1.text equal to empty. That is, make text1 empty, text2.text equal to empty. So text3.text equal to empty. Then we have text4.text equal to what? Empty. So now that we've written a code for that, now let's come and run it. So let's run. So let's use another set of values, 78,000, and we have 7 years time. So let's say 10 years, all right? 10 years. Compute simple interest. You can see the simple interest on 78,000 at the rate of 7% per annum for 10 years. So that's 54,600. So clear. We've written the code, you can see it's clearing everything that we have there, because we said it should make each of the text boxes empty. All right. So that is that. Now remember I said, let me just do one more thing. What we have left in VB is control structures, where we need to look at decision making. We've seen logical operators and or not. So how do you use them in VB? So we make comparison. If this is greater than this, how do you use loop? You want to add these numbers. You want to repeat a set of statements for a number of times. You use loop to take care of that. So we'll see how that can be done. So I think you might just have to, I want us to do this before we go on break. So I don't know, I will need just 30 minutes to 45 minutes for that. So the only problem is getting all the departments that are involved to attend at the same time, because you have different schedules and all. So I will see how that can be possible. Or if we can hold it on the 26th is supposed to be break. Maybe if you can agree that we just hold it for 45 minutes, maybe at a particular time on that same day, 12, because I don't expect you to have lectures, so that you can use it for your assignment. Remember I said you are submitting your assignment first or second week in January, that's once you resume, so that the knowledge from there can guide you in your assignment. So that's why I would like to treat control structures. It's just decision making and loops before you resume next year. But regardless, we'll find a way to sort that out. Now, remember I said something. I said it's not a must for me to display my output in a text box. I can display it in a label. So let's see how that can be done. I want to delete this text box now. Deleted. So let me add a label. Can you see? I'm adding a label. So this is a label. Nothing is supposed to be there because I want to use it for my output. I've cleared it. So I want my output to be displayed there. So what is the name? Label 5. Can you see? Label 5. So now let me come back to the code. There is no text 4 again. It's label 5. So I will now say label 5.caption, because I told you that the property for label that makes it display text is caption. I clear the caption so that nothing will be there. But whenever I run it and simple interest is calculated, the caption for that label should be simple interest. I'm not using text again, so I'll just say label Label 5 is label 5 dot caption. Label 5 dot caption is equal to what? Simple interest. So, and you know, there's no text 4 again, right? So this should not be text 4. So this should be label 5 dot caption should be empty. So now let's run it. You can see it appears like nothing is here because it's a label. Whereas something is there. It appears hidden because it's only a text box that you see the box. Label, you will not see it if nothing is there. Principal rate and time, you are seeing it because there is a caption, principal rate time. But here, remember I cleared the caption because it's supposed to display my output. So let's see, 68,000 for 5 years, or at the rate of 5% times 6. I'm using the same examples that we used. So we got 20,400. So you can see. Because I said label 5 dot caption, that is the text that should appear in label 5. The caption that should appear in label 5 is simple interest. That's why it's displaying this value. And I can clear for new set of values to be entered. All right. I think I used 9% here then for 10 years. So do you get that? So that is it. There is nothing there. So any question before I proceed? Assignment, I think you should have seen it. It's in the, I think the assignment is in this thing. It's in your logbook. I think it's in the logbook. So 4 questions. Yeah, it's 4. So I need to guide you on how you do the assignments. All right. For each question, you have the logbook. It's in your style. Please let me get one from there. Thank you. Is she even around? Yes. Just tell her Mr. Abbas. I don't think there's someone there, but let me check. Which book? Ask your colleagues now. They will tell you where the assignment is. It's in the logbook. I can see someone did a screenshot of assignment statements. That's not assignment though. This is assignment statements in Visual Basic, not the assignment that you are given. Please don't mix it up. So is that clear? Any question before we call it a day? Yes, there's comment. There's comment. Just use your single quotes, then whatever appears after it on a particular line is a comment. Do you get it? See what I'm trying to say? For example, let me say I want to comment that this is principal. So I'll just say, okay, I have to close this thing before you can change the code. You have to close the output form. So if I want to make a comment now, I will just say single slash P is what? Principal. So this will not affect anything. Yeah, thank you. So P is principal. So now this is a comment, all right? This is a comment. So is that clear? This is a comment. You can see if I run it, it will not affect anything. Can you see that the color has changed? So it does not affect anything. So with that single quote, you don't need to close it, right? Just open. So whatever follows the line is ignored because it's a comment. So for a person that asked what the logbook looks like, so this is it. All right, so this is the logbook. All right, and there are questions there for your CA. So for example, you can see problem specification. So that's the question. All right, so that's the question. Write a program and design a form with label such that when you click on the command button, your name appears on label at running stage. That is very simple. So The problem specification, that's the question. That's question 1, right? Analysis, how you want to do it. All right, you write it here. How you want to do it, analysis, you write it. That for that particular question. Design, your form, that form, this form, you can draw it there. All right, so this is my design. Can you see this form is my design? So how you want yours to be, you draw it here. I can also add a flow chart. All right, I've told you what a flow chart is. So for your design is the form, that interface, the labels that you want to add, your text boxes, your command button. So just draw it like a box like this, then you put it for that question. Implementation,
Sir.
that's the code. So this code that you have written, you type it, right? You write it here. And when you run it, so after you type the code, or sorry, after you write the code, so once you run it, you can now print the output. For example, this is our output for this 5, 6. Let me run it. So I can now take a screenshot of this or print screen. So now once I have this, to show that it is running, I'll print this and attach it. So that's for question 1. Question 2 is a different question. You can see the question. Analysis, how you want to go about it as you write. Analysis, I've told you IPO. To solve this, I will need to get the input. The program will ask for this and this. So once I get it, then I will run it, and so you write your analysis here. Design, your interface, what it will look like. So this is the interface. Okay, maybe it's telling you to add labels. This label for surname, this label for this. So you add your design. Flow chart, you can include your flow chart. Implementation, the code that you write for that question 2, the code will be here, and you have to run it to show that it is working. So print that output page and attach it. That's question 2. Question 3, you do the same thing. So question 4, so you also do the same thing. Write a program to add and subtract 2 integers. I think we've even done this. Use message box for outputting. Remember, we used a text box for outputting. You can use message box. I told you, just say MSG box. So once you use MSG box, whatever you put inside it, it will display your output.
You cannot print like it's fading.
Sir, I dey print the office, sir. The key. Okay, ma bá yín ṣe, sir. So that is let me show you the key. Okay, please. So question 4, the question is here. So using message box. Let me just show you an example. Okay, message box. So let me say, so instead of me, you can see here my output is being displayed in label 5. So if I want to use message box, I will just say message box, right? SI, number of buttons, let me say 2. I will just say output. So this is the text that will appear as the title. Expected equal to. Okay.
Better you print screen.
Okay. Is it there?
Yes.
Let me try this message box. So 67,000. So I have message box. So there I have my output to be displayed in label 5 and to be displayed in a message box. 78, 9. Rate should not be more than 100. So time is how many years? 20 years. So you can see a message box. This is what a message box looks like. Can you see? I wrote it that I should my output. Let me close it. My output is to be displayed in label 5, right? And I'm also displaying it in a message box. I just wanted to see what a message box looks like. So just say message box, then whatever value that you want to display. but this should still prompt. I don't have a button, so this should still. Why is it not taking this? I wanted to add an heading. Prompt. Expected equal to. Okay, is it tied to? Okay, let me see. Um, let me see. Maybe tied to equal to. Okay. So let me just display it without any tag to them. We'll see the reason for that. Okay. So we have now see what I'm just trying to change. Rate 4. So that question 4 says that what? Your output should be displayed in a message box. So that means it should be displayed in a message box. That means, let me say, okay, I don't want to display my message in a label now. So all I just need to do is remove this, okay? Now, this one would have completed SI. So message box SI means display my simple interest in the message box. And once I run it, so it will just display it in what? In the message box, 6%, time is 5 years, compute. So you can see the output is displayed in the what? In the message box. That is the output. So what I was just trying to do then is, instead of having project 1 here, I want to change this to just say my output or my result. So, good morning. Yes, sir. So I just wanted this to say project 1, right? So project 1. All right. I don't want it to be project. I don't want it to be my output. So that was what I was trying to change that. It's telling me there's an error, but it's not affecting the output. So I will see why that is giving an error, because I just want to be able to change this name for project 1 to what? To my output. So that's how I use a message box. You can see. So it's very, very simple. In fact, this question 4, we have done it today. The first program that we wrote was to add and subtract 2 integers. So if you were able to access the YouTube page, just take a screenshot of that particular page, or you pause it, you see the code there, then you run it. So the code for that has been implemented already. And we know what labels, text boxes, and command buttons are. So that's the end of the class. Thank you so much for your time. So see you guys next week. Hopefully, we are not able to meet next week, but I think based on the assignments given, so you do not need control structures, all right, for any of the assignments for the 4 questions. So you can still proceed with your assignment, but the next class we are going to look at control structures. So the next class we are going to look at control structures, where we look at loops and decision making. So any question before we call it a day? Where is my office? Why do you want to know my office? My office is in the Department of Computer Science. So I think we have come to the end of the class. Individually, don't worry, before your submission time, we'll get back to you on that, because usually people submit through the course reps. So we tell the course rep to collect everything and bring it to the department. But just don't worry, before minimum RAM should have, I think 4 gig RAM should be okay. 4 gig RAM should be okay. So before the submission time, the manner of submission will be communicated to you guys. All right, thank you so much for staying with us throughout the class, in spite of the challenges that we had, right? So thank you so much. The YouTube link, I think it's the same one, though you won't find it on my YouTube channel because I used another lecturer's system to set up the class. So Your laptop is working? Yes, it's working now. Thank you so much, sir. So see you guys next week or next year. If you don't have a laptop, you can meet any of your friends that has one. So that shouldn't be a problem. I understand that not everyone will have a laptop, but you can use anyone's laptop. So just for your assignments. All right, thank you. Bye.
What happened?
So when you say the assignment is this thing?
Yes, so this is question 1.
So is it question 1,
Just have to wait. I have class.
2,
Your students have been coming.
and 4? This is question 1 to 4.